Is the new reference Panda, this one, better than the old reference Panda, this one? I want to give you my honest thoughts and do a full review on the new and old Panda. This model needs no introduction. It is the iconic Panda Daytona. I'm going to start with the old reference here. This is the 16500 LN. It was discontinued last year at Watches and Wonders 2023. It is the 40mm case. It has the two pushes for the chronograph function. It has the beautiful porcelain white dial. It has the oyster bracelet and it has the double folding safety clasp. This was probably one of the most sought after watches in the last 4 or 5 years. The retail price when this was discontinued was in the late 12s. The current Rolex retail price for this is now in the 13s. This watch here, in its peak, reached, and we actually sold one at LWC, £40,000 for a pre-owned 2017 model. And first thing I want to point out to you guys is the biggest difference between this and the new reference is the imbalance of the shoulders. And what do I mean by that? If you were to look at this particular watch here, on the left hand side, you'll see some nice chunky polished shoulders. If you look on the right hand side, you'll actually notice the much thinner profile of the shoulders that is correct to the piece. It was the same for the steel and yellow gold model, the 116 reference. It is slightly imbalanced. It gives it a look, an appearance of actually wearing smaller than a 40mm watch. It also has the black ceramic bezel with numerals. Now the batter markers on this one, again correct to the piece, are quite short and chunky. And on the sub dials, if you notice the ring that goes round, it's a little bit thicker than the new reference. And again, I would say a touch darker. But the caliber in this one is a 4130 movement, has a 72-hour power reserve, and they all come on the oyster brace. For you guys that don't know, the Daytona is quintessentially the sports professional watch for the racing drivers out there. And this was such a coveted watch and still is in the grey market. We sell this particular watch now, to give you guys an idea, between £24,000 and £26,000 depending on the year. And like I said before, in its peak it reached 40k and over there. So if you're wanting this watch, you want to pick one up on the grey market, one point to note is make sure you get it with the white swing tag. It has the dial code which proves it is an original Panda. The other one was the black dial. This is the coveted one. I think, in my opinion, the dial is absolutely stunning. But for me, whenever I wore this particular watch, I always felt it wore more like a 38mm watch. And due to the thinness of the case, which you guys can see there, it is super comfy, super thin, a really nice watch to wear. But for me personally, it wore much smaller than a 40mm watch. How hard are these watches to actually get? Well, I can tell you, unless you have 100 to 150k a year spend with your Rolex authorized dealer, you are never going to get offered either of these two watches from your Rolex AD. So let's move on to the new reference. This is the latest release from Rolex. It is the 126-500 LN. It is the 40mm case, same as the predecessor. It's also got the oyster bracelet again, same as the predecessor, and the double folding safety clasp. This has the new movement in, which is the 4131 movement. Again, a 72-hour power reserve, but there are quite a lot of aesthetics that you'll notice have changed from this model to the predecessor. First thing you will know is the bezel. If you notice, it's got a stainless steel smooth edge bezel insert with a black ceramic insert with numerals. This particular one has a more of a classic looking bezel. And the other thing you'll notice is the shoulders. Look at the shoulders on that watch. You'll see that side and that side are exactly the same width as each other, unlike the predecessor which we just spoke about. In my opinion, that means it's a much more balanced looking piece. It certainly looks and wears much better on the wrist. It has a more bigger feel. It looks and wears like a 40mm watch now. But the biggest change for me personally is the dial. Now, if you look on the dial on this particular watch, it still has a gloss finish, but has the appearance of a more matte colour. It's a more subdued white. Going back to the old school, going back to the ones from decades earlier, they had that sort of lighter, creamier looking white dial, and the batter markers, if you look at those, they are longer and thinner. Again, I actually do quite like that, to be fair, but the actual sub-dials, again, if you have a look at those, they are thinner than the predecessor. They're chunkier and a little bit darker. These are thinner and a bit lighter. I still think it's an attractive dial. It is still a Panda, obviously. It's still a beautiful watch, but has it lost some of its identity with the new reference? Of course, they had to change it, but I think it's lost a little bit too much character for me. And the biggest point to note is the color. If you're going to be white, be really bright and white. And I love that porcelain color white dial, but I do also like this one. So another point to note, and it was across all the Daytona ranges. Let's not forget, last year, 2023 Watches and Wonders, every Daytona was discontinued, including this one, and they made a new case mat for the range, and I do have to say it is an improvement. If you look at the case mat there, you'll be able to see that it is a slightly different shape. So it has almost like a curvature going up to what we call LWC feet, the polished feet there, and also the case back is wider and it's also shallower, so that will be more comfortable to wear, and also it's actually more pleasing to look at. It's got the new 4131 movement, it's got the new power reserve of 72 hours, same as the predecessor, but if you look at the case back there, in my opinion, I think is a massive improvement, and it's going to cost all the board from the steel and gold, Oyster Flex range, and also the solid gold range and platinum. Obviously the platinum has the open case back, but yeah, I think that's a definite massive improvement. And if let's just hold them side by side, and I just want to show you the difference there in the shoulders. So hopefully, for you guys there, if you didn't know, you'd think they were two different sized watches, and this is what I'm hoping comes across on camera, is the fact of how different they do actually look. Obviously this one I think is a fantastically balanced piece, and this one has always been an imbalanced piece, and not a lot of people know that. So the price that we actually sell this watch is £29,000. Considering it is a new reference, new release from Rolex, I think it is very good value for money in the current market. Which one should you choose? Well, if you're in the market to buy this one here, which is the old reference, you're certainly in the market to buy the new reference, because it literally is about 10 to 15% uplift for the new reference, like for like new and worn. For me, I would choose the new reference all day long. For the reason is the size, and for me, because it looks and wears like a 40mm watch, I would be more comfortable wearing that. I've had a few of these over the years, and unfortunately, I look at it and I do know it does look and wear too small for my eyes. But if the dream for me, so this is where I would be, the dream for me would be this watch with that dial. Unfortunately, it's never going to happen. So my choice is, under the gun, the new reference, 1,000,000%. Hope you enjoyed this video. YouTube thinks you should watch this video next.